I'm going to be talking about the Death Note 2017 Netflix movie. The short version of it is okay, only if you haven't seen the anime. If you've seen the anime, it feels like garbage, real, just extremely poor. But maybe that's the point of it, is trying to be a kind of a gateway bridge. People watch that, they're completely unfamiliar with anime or Death Note, and they see that they're interested in that, and maybe they go on to the actual Death Note series, which is on Netflix. So maybe that's part of their plan with that. The changes made offer no benefit or innovation. They don't bring anything new to the series. Even the change from the Japan to the US doesn't offer something extra or something more. It seems more like it's just a simpler change from having to do Japan, which they do have to shoot in Japan, which I'm imagining that's not that easy a thing to do, or make up a mock makeup of Japan, which it has a very distinctive look. It's very busy. It's a very busy look in Japan in the cities, so that could be a little expensive. And Light, the character is Light in name only, and some of the things like Light in the anime is smart, he's well liked, he's handsome. He's actually someone that you would like to have as a friend in the anime. Whereas Light in the US is unclear. He seems to be a bit of a social misfit. Okay looking. Not really friendly. We don't know enough about him to even, like, if we would decide if we wanted him to be a friend or not. Uh, he's very bland, really, in the big scheme of things as we go through talking about this. So I do feel that is a big detraction. They should have just made their own character, and that's what you'll see throughout. I think when you're looking at this, is they really should have just taken the Death Note idea, maybe Death Note and Ryuk, and moved on from that, and just did everything else in their own story. Because most of the characters really don't. I mean, there are some visuals, and I guess we'll talk about that as we go on through here, that are similar to the anime every once in a while, and there are some striking visuals. The Mia character, as they call the girlfriend, she's also not like the character in the anime at all, as well. Um, Anyways, it was kind of sad in the anime because she is actually in love with him. Like, she actually does love him and would do anything for him. In fact, does do anything for him. So it is more tragic in the anime. If Light in the anime had stopped using the Death Note, I think the his girlfriend in the anime would have been fine with that. So it really did come upon him. Whereas with this casting and the directions that they chose with this character, she kind of pushes him more and tries to get him to use the Death Note and use it more and things like that. And that kind of muddies the waters because we don't actually get to see Light actually how power corrupts, because she's kind of more pushing him. It gives him an out, basically. It kind of gives him an excuse a little bit, kind of like the Adam and Eve story where Eve tempts Adam with the apple, and it's an out. Well, she made me do it, right? Kind of thing. It wasn't all my fault. And it's like, no, it was still your decision, your choice, and it should have been in this as well. I feel it's stronger when it's the character's decision making it, and they're fully aware of it in this. Something else that we miss out on is Light and L's friendship. Because they actually did develop a friendship, because at some point in the anime, Light he chooses to give up the Death Note, and because of that, he also gives up the memory of the Death Note. So we see his character revert to what he is without the Death Note involved. And he is genuinely a good person. Sure, he's a bit cold and analytical in his way, but he's not actually evil without the Death Note, without that power, that godlike power being given to him, which no person should have. And they actually do develop quite a good friendship. He's probably, I think Elle even says it in the anime, his only friend that he's ever made. And it makes it that much sadder at the end when things go poorly. Something else that's missing is the cat and mouse game between Light and Elle, which is really good in the anime, where they're poking, prodding, kind of giving each other manipulations, but they're both aware of it as well. So there's another even layer on top of it. It's just not manipulation, but both parties are aware of the manipulation. So quite entertaining in the anime, and that's just completely thrown out here. I think there's this one scene in the Netflix Death Note where they're talking in some sort of a cafe or restaurant but there's not really any. In fact, it even weakens the story a bit because Ryuk tells Light that if he gives him back the Death Note, he'll just find somebody else to that'll use it in a more entertaining way, which is almost more of a feeling that he has to keep it then, because the person that gets it could not only kill him possibly, but could be a much worse person. So, and most people, I think, inherently feel that they're a good person, so they would assume that the next person that might get it would be worse. So, I mean, I understand that is a reason for him to keep it, because it kind of did make his character more bland and I guess more stereotypically good, like I'm a good person, good citizen kind of idea. But he could keep it and just not use it as well. But then again, that's where they introduced the girlfriend. So you start seeing they really did change a lot of the setup. They really would have been better if just take the Death Note and Ryuk and tell that story that they wanted to tell with it, instead of trying to do this mishmash that doesn't really work on really at all. I do feel that the Death Note Netflix anime, or the Netflix Death Note, is a bit sad because the actors really are trying, and they do seem to do a fairly good job. They're engaging on screen. I am interested in seeing them actually what they do, but it's a shame that the story and just everything else surrounding it isn't up to the par of the talent that they have. And I did feel that was pretty sad. William Dafoe's voice work is excellent. I believe they use motion capture also as well. All that works pretty good, and Ryuk looks good as well, particularly in some shots. Some shots, it's very stunning the way they shot him. Very cinematic, and gives you a lot of thematic, like he's always lurking kind of in the background, kind of the hidden threat, the unconscious, mind behind you, tempting you to evil and those sorts of things. So I do feel that they did a really good job with that. And for the most part, also with the CG work, there is some points when you get a closer look at his face, and sometimes it looks like somebody smeared just a little bit of like grease on the lens a little bit, like it's not quite clear, but it wasn't really detracting or anything like that too much from it. Just a little odd, because I think it was only odd because of how well some of the other stuff was shot with him. It was just a little bit odd that it looked almost like it was slightly out of focus a little bit. When there's clear lighting and things, and it could have been clear. But overall, that was a pretty good highlight on that end. There was a little surprise too near the end. I didn't notice it so much before, so I'm not sure if I just didn't notice it or if I just noticed it because it was at the end. But there is a nice little 80s synth when Light is running away from the police and from L. It's cool. I like the 80s synth, and it was nice to have it there. And then we go back to another story element where Mia is pushing Light to kill indiscriminately, kill the FBI agents. What is the point of that? What are they trying to tell? And it also does take away a large part, because in the anime, Light ends up having to kill the FBI agents. And here, Mia is the one that does it, and does it through subterfuge and trickery. So Light is innocent in that respect from that. And I can see that might be an interesting story to tell, of someone that is truly being innocent and trying to not being corrupted by the Death Note. But it's not very interesting if the person has the Death Note and they just don't use it, right? You don't really have a whole bunch of a story right there. So I think that's why they had Mia always pushing and then using the Death Note in an evil way to kill the FBI agents. And, well, we have other problems with that, because why do Mia and Light fall in love? We're never given any real idea of what attracts them. Is it just young teenage hormones? Well, if it is, why didn't she just kill him? Because she thinks she's in love? Was she really in love? I mean, I guess you could say yes-ish, but not really. It's just teenage love. So why didn't she just kill him and take the Death Note? Or any one of 100 other things that someone being manipulative could have done. Because they didn't go full out and be like, yes, she's actually in love with this guy. but she's also kind of evil. Okay, that could have been an interesting story to tell. But they didn't really go there. Again, they kind of went with a bland, wishy-washy, well, she's only doing it to protect him. She's being analytical about it. But we don't actually see the kind of the depths of her love. And that's a contrast from the anime, where you do get the idea that the character there, that is his girlfriend, really does love him, Light. Whereas in this one, it seems more like just teenage infatuation, which is, again, maybe that's compelling for teenagers, maybe that's the target audience for that, but it's not. Teenage love isn't that compelling to an adult, because it's just fluff. It's cotton candy. It's not a real meal. Something else that did seem very reckless in the movie was that Light tells Mia just immediately of the Death Note, which I almost laughed at first, because I think they're not actually just he's not just gonna tell her, is he? I mean, it seems a little ridiculous, but then, like, maybe he would have thought in his brain, wait, maybe I shouldn't, but no, he just tells her, and then does something to even prove it even further, because of course no one would believe that at first. That's ridiculous. And it would have been almost more interesting if the story he had told her and then decided, wait, that maybe it wasn't a good idea, just ignore it. But then she's suspicious because of his, first she, disbelieves him, but then she's suspicious later on, about him. Would have been a little more, I think, interesting that way as well. But then again, they did just fly through a lot of stuff real fast. In the anime, you do get to know these people, you get to know the characters, and you get to see a lot more of Light's inner thoughts, and that's one reason why Ryuk is such a good character in the anime, because he's kind of like Light's impartial observer that he talks to and bounces things off of. Although he's not actually impartial in the anime, he does kind of put his thumb sometimes on certain things to make it interesting, which is also interesting fun too. It's kind of like your own mind tricking yourself into making a mistake of sorts. But it's maybe a mistake you subconsciously desire. But again, that a lot of that subtlety, I don't think any of that really comes through on the Netflix Death Note. So I do want to repeat again that I think it would be better if they just took Ryuk and the Death Note and told their story in the American City. They could either do, say, this was years after Light's story ended, or they could just say, we're going to tell kind of an alternate version. What if it wasn't Light in Japan that got it, and we'll just drop it off in another city, wherever they ended up doing it. So I think, and it is a shame, because they obviously have talent. A lot of the people making the movie, a lot of the shots are really good, really well thought out. Not all of it, though. There are some that seem more pedestrian. Like, I remember at one point when they were near the end of the movie and they're running and they run through a restaurant, L's chasing Light, and they kind of make a prominent shot of some utensils falling on the ground, which was like, why is that there? What does that add? And it's a weird shot, like from the ground, if I remember correctly, going kind of up a little bit. And it's like, okay, that utensils aren't what? There was no, I couldn't see any thematic reason, except they just wanted movement that was close to the camera of some sort. I don't know. Just didn't that, but they had other stuff that was very good. Like I said, a lot of their stuff with Ryuk was shot extremely well. A lot of thought was given to that as well. Although there are some ridiculous parts. Like, for example, when Ryuk is first introduced to Light, he screams like mad, and it's almost farcical. And he's running around the room and wind's blowing and everything. And it's like, I don't know, why did they even have all the wind, like, in the room, blowing stuff over and all? One, none of that's from the anime. That's not even how it happened. And two, I mean, it just makes your main character look like a complete doof. Whereas if you contrast that with the way that Light in the anime met Ryuk, it showed you a lot about his character, because he was startled, which was very odd, because the Light in the anime was very even-keeled, very baseline character, not a lot of highs and lows. He wasn't real excitable. He also wasn't really depressive either. So, the very idea that he was getting, got a little ruffled when he first met Ryuk, but he also handled it really well, spoke a lot about the character in that way. So, the only good that I can think that might come out of the movie is that if you've never heard of anime or Death Note, and you see this, and you're not, a lot of people aren't interested in cartoons or animation of any sort, but if they see this Death Note, and if they like it, which I think that's kind of a big if, then they can go and watch the anime version, or even perhaps maybe later on the manga or something like that. But I'm not sure that the type of person that would watch the Netflix Death Note and be like, that was really good, I want to see more, let me see the original, and then they're going to go back and watch the original. I don't know that they're going to like that, because it is much more mental and abstract. And the cat and mouse game, the friendship that develops, the characters that you actually get to see and know. Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe Netflix doesn't even know for sure, but they're kind of taking a gamble here, because it is kind of interesting that you could remake old properties, but the reason that you're making them isn't to actually innovate or do better, but to kind of get people's interest in those older properties. Because if somebody sees the Netflix Death Note, they go back and watch the anime, and let's say, I guess they actually kind of liked it, but maybe they didn't even like it, but in the suggested list, other animes pop up that maybe they might like or be interested in and watch. So it's kind of like a gateway to a whole nother room of content that normally this person would not be interested in. Because I think I read somewhere or heard someone say that Jessica Jones was like that a lot of people got into some of the Marvel comic series on Netflix through Jessica Jones, that it looked different and that they would watch that and like it, and they'd be like, maybe I'll give the others a try. So perhaps that is the idea behind this Netflix. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below, and if you have anything else that you think I might have missed or added, or even if you enjoyed the Netflix Death Note, if you would put down what you enjoyed about it, because I am genuinely interested in if some people did find this enjoyable and they really liked it, what's the context surrounding that? Is this the gateway that Netflix is hoping it would be? Is it maybe it's for teen audiences or that sort of thing? So if you do have any extra information that you could provide, I'd appreciate it, and you have a good day. Bye.